Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about how we can have more elegant and feminine behavior. If you're new here, hello, my name is Nicole. I typically post videos on this channel about how we can level up some of the things of our appearance or maybe what's going on the inside on a little bit more of a DIY approach, because I feel like when we can DIY and make strides at home, when we go and seek out a professional, we are at a point where we can start sprinting and start running in that marathon than if we hadn't started at all. So if you're new here, I would love if you introduce yourself in the comment section down below or connected with me over on Instagram. So with that, one of the first things that I want to speak to in regards to how you can have more feminine and elegant behavior is your tone and your level of volume. So I don't think that everybody needs to hear you. I also don't think that you always have something to say. I look at some of the women that I look at as the most elegant or the most classy. They don't always have to put their 2 cents into something, especially when they're not educated on a topic. Furthermore, have you ever been out, dining somewhere and then a group of people come in and there's that 1 or 2 people and they're like, "Bleh!" And maybe once upon a time that was me. And it's not very classy and it's not very elegant, and I think that is a activity and a attribute that people should try and refine, especially if they want to come across as a little bit more elegant. Now the next thing that I want to speak to be honest, the next few things that I want to speak to is going to revolve around me asking you a question, because I think when I ask you this question, you will then be able to start picturing certain activities in your mind. Because truth is, there's certain people that you will feel more comfortable around and certain people that maybe you tighten up your manners just a little bit more. And I know for me personally, there's things that I would do around my mom that I wouldn't do around my grandma. So my first question that I want to ask you is, would you do this in front of your grandmother? I think grandmothers tend to have a higher standard of elegance and femininity. If you would not do that in front of your grandmother, I think that's a really good indication of something that maybe you should start refining yourself in, or an area that you should start refining yourself in. Now, to follow on to that point, I did just mention mothers. Would you do a certain thing in front of your mom? I think sometimes we can be a little bit slack about some things in front of our grandmother. However, in regards to our moms often see us a lot more than our grandmothers, and our moms often have brought us up, and so they know the areas that we fall short in. And I think if there's an area that you are feeling like you need to hide from your mom because she's going to pull you up on it, I do think that that's an area that you might want to reflect on. So my personal situation is, my mom used to always say, "Oh, Nicole, you don't need to be so like, you need to like tone it down a little bit, and you don't need to be so hyper." She'd be like, "Oh, Nicole, you're so hyper, like tone it down a bit." And that would usually be in situations where I was really upset or really angry about something. And as much as it annoys me to say, she had a point there. I didn't need to be so forceful or so angry or so aggressive. That is never going to come across in a feminine or elegant fashion. Now, the next question I want you to ask yourself is, would a future employer back this type of behavior? Because often we've seen tons of scandals online where we've seen somebody who they've acted in a certain way and then their employer finds out and then they end up getting let go from that job. This might be something that you feel comfortable doing in front of your mother or your grandmother, but then in the workplace it's a it's a no-go zone. So I think if you ask yourself and you reflect on what would an employer be confident in backing, that will allow you to refine yourself even more. The next thing that I would love to speak to is, I have been in situations where people, they come and they ask me and they say, "Nicole, do you think that this is inappropriate? Do you think that I should post this picture? Do you think that this will be taken in a wrong or a bad way?" And I often follow up that question with this answer. If you feel like you need to ask me that question, that should give you your answer on whether it is inappropriate or appropriate. Because I think for things that are inappropriate, you will never have to ask if this is appropriate. Hopefully that makes sense. I know that was a lot of inappropriate and appropriate, but I think if you have to ask yourself that question, it is usually teetering the line of being inappropriate. And personally, that is the point where I refrain from moving forward with whatever the topic or question is. Now, the next thing that I want to speak to that is going to allow you to be more feminine and more elegant is manners. One of the things that I feel so proud about, even though I don't fully remember is that my dad, when he remarried, his new in-laws, they would always say, or people that maybe knew me and my brother when we were children, they would run into us as adults and be like, you guys were the most mannerly children. And now being a woman who wants to bring children into the world, I'm like, there's no greater compliment. Thank you. And furthermore, I have a few friends who have had kids, and there's certain friends where you just cannot bear being around them because their children are out of control, and you miss your friendships, but it's challenging because their kids are unmannerly. And so now, because I have seen firsthand what it is like to have children around that aren't a joy and that are too loud, and some of you are probably thinking like, I probably should never have children, but I do think on the flip side, I have seen how I was raised, and I have a 10-year-old brother, you guys, who is 24 years my senior or my junior, sorry. I see how he was such a joy to have around, and I think that parenting can be done in a way where you're not militant, but there is manners in the household, and that will carry you on through. Now, the last thing that I want to ask you in regards to how you can stay more feminine and elegant within your behavior is, I want to ask you the question of, would your future in-laws be proud of this behavior, or would they be embarrassed to hear this memory about you or this story about you? I definitely know that there's certain things in my past that I would cry if my in-laws knew about me. And the thing is that there's certain things that your family and your parents can hear about you, but because they have love for you, because they gave birth to you, they're going to be able to get over hearing these terrible stories about you, or these terrible stories about the way that you've conducted yourself. However, when it comes to your in-laws, I do think that they don't necessarily have that love for you. They like you the way that your parents would, I'm saying. And I think that if you would be embarrassed of your in-laws hearing a certain story about you, I think that should have you reflect on if this is something that you should be partaking in, or if this is something you should be broadcasting to the world. If you can answer those questions and you think that your in-laws or your mom or your grandma would be proud of these things, then I think that that's a way that you should conduct yourself. If not, I would refrain. Anyways, my friends, that is it for this quick video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's been useful, and I hope you've considered subscribing to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.